Hello everyone, Kirsten here. Today I'm going to be showing you step by step how to paint this watercolor lemon branch. The colors we're going to be using today are sap green, yellow ochre, lemon yellow, and burnt sienna. I have this sketch available in the description box below for download, or you can sketch it out yourself. I'm using 3 brushes, a large, medium, and small, and I also have this palette. It's just a plastic palette from an art store here, and I filled it up with the 2 paints, and other than that, we just need a towel for blotting, a cup of water, and we are ready to get started. So we're going to start with our largest brush, and you can just set the other 2 aside for now. And we're going to get this brush nice and wet. It'll take a little bit to work these 2 paints that have hardened on the palette, so you want to make sure there's a lot of water in your bristles. And we're just going to take a pure mixture of lemon yellow. Make sure you use a lot of water here so that the mixture is really nice and runny and translucent. This is just the first wash on the lemon, so we want to make sure that it's nice and thin to start. You can start by just working that paint across each of the lemons. I like to make sure I have enough water in my brush at all times in order to have the paint kind of move easily across the entirety of the lemon. This way we don't have any lines of where we stop and start. The paint will move really nicely for you when you're just getting the base layer down. Now we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the second lemon. We're just filling that in, doing the first wash, just a pure mixture of lemon yellow and a bunch of water. Now I'm just going to be folding up a piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to use the tip of it to blot right in the center of the lemon. This will just pick up some of the color that we laid down. Then we're going to grab our brush again, and we're just going to get it damp, so rinse it in some water and then blot it off on your towel. And then you can just kind of use that damp brush to smooth out the edges of where we just picked up the paint. This will just create kind of a gradient from the lighter to darker. The reason why I blot the middle of the lemons is this helps to create the round shape that a lemon has. When you're painting things that are round, typically the outsides are darker and the inside is lighter. And this is true to how fruit and other round things look in real life, so I'm just kind of mimicking that in this lemon. So now we're going to take our medium-sized brush, again get it nice and damp. We're going to have to work this color a little bit. I'm taking sap green to start, and I'm just mixing maybe 50-50 paint and water. It's a little bit less runny than the lemons, but still a fairly thin consistency. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to just use this smaller brush here to just fill in the back sides of all of the leaves. I'm just starting out with this with the smaller brush so we can get it out of the way, and then we can move on to the rest of the leaves with the bigger brush. The back sides of these leaves are going to be a little bit darker than the rest of the leaves, so I wanted to make sure to get a layer down, and we can keep building up that layer as we go. With watercolors, you build color by adding layers most of the time, so that's what I wanted to do with these back sides. Now we're going to be adding a little bit of yellow ochre into the mixture. This will just give it a little bit more of a warmer undertone. And then we're taking a thin mixture of this, and all we're doing is just filling it in on top of all of the leaves. You can also use the tip of your brush to fill in the stems that connect the leaves to the larger stem, or if you'd like or feel more comfortable with it, you can use your medium or small size brush to fill in those stems. They are small. I'm comfortable using my bigger brush and just using the tip of it, but if you'd like to use one of the smaller brushes that we have on hand, you can do that at this time as well. With this, I'm trying to stay within my pencil markings as much as I possibly can, but if I go outside the lines a little bit, it's okay because we are going to end up erasing the pencil markings anyways. I'm also just going to be using the same green color to fill in our first layer of the branch as well, so you can just fill in everything that isn't a lemon at this point in that green color. The brushes that I'm using for this painting are a mixture of synthetic and sable, so they aren't super snappy. They have a little bit of give to them. You need a little bit of control, but you can use whatever brush that you feel comfortable with. These ones are really fairly priced, and I've linked them below in the description box if you'd like to give them a go. I know a few artists that I know as well really enjoy to use them. So rinsing all of the green out of that brush, and we're going to go back to our lemons now. I'm going to take more of the lemon yellow, and this time you want a thicker mixture of paint in that water. So I'm just going to be working some of that lemon yellow color into the mixture. Still, again, a fair amount of water, but just a little bit less than we used the first time. I'm just making sure the lemons are dry here, because if they're wet, you won't be able to do this step the way that I'm showing it. It'll just kind of bleed. So we're just drawing a circle with the paint on the outer perimeter of the lemon, and we'll also just drop a little bit in the bottom part of the lemon as well. And then we're going to be using a technique where we'll rinse off our brush and just use a damp brush to sort of blend that color from the outside in, while trying our best to leave the center of the lemon really nice and light. So as you can see, I'm just dabbing off the water and using the damp brush to blend that yellow into the lighter center. I try to rinse out my brush fairly regularly so that I'm not pulling any of the color that I've picked up in my brush into the center of the lemon. So that's something that throughout this painting you'll want to do often. You can see where I'm just kind of blending it, and then I'll rinse it, and then I'll blend it some more and rinse it again. And then we're going to just be grabbing that medium-sized brush and getting it damp as well, and then we're going to use that to blend out the little bit of color that we put in the bottom of the lemon. And then moving on to the other lemon, we'll do the exact same technique all over again. Just make sure that when you're laying down this paint, you have enough water in the mixture that it won't dry before you have time to blend it. You can buffer out paint if you need to. If it does dry, it's not the biggest deal, but it is much easier if it's nice and wet still. So again, just making sure to rinse out your brush regularly so that you don't pull any of the yellow color from the outside into the center of the lemon. And then just going back to our medium-sized brush to blend out the color that we put in the bottom of the lemon. I kind of put color to one side of the lemon bottom just to create sort of a shadow, but you could also do a U shape or whatever you like. Now we're just grabbing a mixture of sap green, and we're going to add a little bit of yellow ochre into this one as well. And again, this mixture will just be a little bit thicker than the mixture we used for our leaves the first time, but still quite a bit of water in there. We're going to be using this to firstly fill in the back sides of the leaves. Again, we're adding that second layer, and you can see right away here how much darker it gets with another layer on it. And then we're going to be using this same brush and the same mixture to start lining our veins of our leaves with the paint. And I'm also just going to add a few little dots of color anywhere you'd like on the leaf. This doesn't really have to make sense. You can just place it wherever you'd like. And then I'm just taking that larger brush and blending out the spots of color that we just put down. With the vein, I like to keep only one side blended, so you have that kind of hard line on one side, and then the other side is softened with the damp brush. You can kind of see my technique as I go here on the leaves, but basically just laying down color wherever you think would look nice and making sure to line that vein down the middle of the leaf. And then you just use the tip of the other brush, just the damp brush, to sort of blend it out. Again, I'm making sure to regularly rinse out my brush so that I'm not dragging any of the darker green color into the lighter parts of the leaf. I like to work one leaf at a time so that I don't run into the issue of putting some paint down and then by the time I get back to blend it, it's already dry. I find it much harder to blend out when that happens, and I'd much prefer to have a little bit more of a watery mixture so I can just kind of touch the tip of my brush to it and it sort of blends out and creates a softer edge than if you're trying to kind of buffer out paint that's already dried onto your paper. The end result is a lot smoother and it is just easier to work with. You can also just fill in these little stems with the darker green color just to create a little bit more depth on the stems leading to the branch. So you can go ahead and use the same technique on all of the remaining leaves. Now for the branch itself, I'm going to be using some of the green that we already have in our brush from the leaves, and I'm going to be adding the burnt sienna to the green. So basically it's going to be about 50-50 burnt sienna and sap green, and this is going to be quite a thick mixture actually. As you can see, the paint is a lot more dispersed on the palette. With a plastic palette, that's kind of how you can see if it's thinner or thicker. You can see the green is nice and runny, and the brownish color we have going here is kind of separating. So I'm just going to use my medium-sized brush to draw a line on one side of the branch, and then I'm going to use my even smaller brush to blend out that line that I have. And this will create sort of a gradient across the branch rather than just filling in the whole branch with one color. And it allows that green color that we laid down previously to sort of pop through in some spots. For me, using a technique like this just creates a lot more depth in a painting and a little bit more interest as well. Instead of just having one solid brown color going down the stem, you sort of have some darker spots and lighter spots and a little bit of green undertone. And this is kind of, again, true to what real life looks like. So now we're going to be grabbing our burnt sienna, and this is just a pure mixture on our largest brush. And it's going to be pretty watery enough that I feel comfortable to just drop a few spots on every single leaf and come back to blend it out afterwards. So it doesn't really matter where you place this raw sienna, just anywhere you want. And then we'll rinse out that large brush and use the damp tip to sort of blend out the little spots that we made. Again, this step is to just help add some interest in the leaves so they aren't just green. If you feel like you added too much of the burnt sienna, you can use your brush as a mop to sort of pick up the color and just rinse it off in the cup, and then you can come back and blend it out some more. Now that that's done, we're going to do our third and final layer on our lemons. So I'm going to grab, again, a thicker mixture of the lemon yellow, and we want this to be the most amount of paint we've had in the mixture yet. It should move around very slowly on your palette. And then I'm also going to add just a touch of yellow ochre in there. Not too much, because we don't want it to not be a true lemon color, but we also want to add a little bit of darkness to the outside of the lemon. Again, this will help to create that round shape. So using the tip of your brush, you can create sort of a circle around the outside of the lemon. And don't think too much about this. If your circle isn't perfect, that's completely fine. I'm going to be adding a little bit of thicker spots towards the bottom to create a little bit bigger of a shadow there, and then thinner towards the top. And on the other lemon, I will kind of focus that on one side so it looks like the sun is kind of hitting from the side. If you don't feel comfortable with doing that, you can honestly just draw a circle around the outside of the lemon and blend it like that, and it'll look just fine. And then we'll rinse off our brush and we'll use it again to blend out that color. And once again, we want to make sure that we're not bringing any of the darker yellow color into the center of the lemon. So we're just going to be running our brush on the line itself and rinsing regularly so that we can create that gradient effect. Once you have all of your line blended, then you can kind of start pushing that color around, just making sure, again, to rinse regularly and not pulling any color into the center. We'll do the same thing on the other lemon, just blending out that line of where it goes from darker to lighter and rinsing regularly. And then I'm just going to take a look at what I've done and fix up any spots where I think there's too harsh of a line. And then we're just going to take our medium-sized brush and fill in the bottom of the lemon. We're going to use the same mixture that we used for the outside of the lemon with the little bit of yellow ochre in with the lemon yellow. And we're just going to place that on the outer perimeter of the bottom part of the lemon as well. Now we'll rinse out that brush and use it to blend the color that we just laid down in the bottom of the lemons. Again, I just like to sort of push the color back to the side that I put the color down onto. Otherwise, I find you can easily drag the color across the entire portion and then it doesn't create the nice gradient. And then we're going to use our medium-sized brush to do another mixture of raw sienna and sap green. Make sure it's pretty thick this time, and then we'll use that to line the one side of the branch that we lined before. We're just adding another layer for darkness and depth, and then we will do the same technique where we will blend it out. So just rinsing off that brush and using the tip of it to blend out the color we just laid down. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can grab your smallest brush and use that to blend out this color as well. Again, just be sure to rinse regularly or dab your brush off so that you aren't dragging the paint onto the lighter side of the branch, and it will help create that rounded shape to the branch itself. Now we're just going to get another mixture of lemon yellow and yellow ochre going, and this time we want to use as little water as we possibly can. So in this case, as you can see, there's really no water coming off of my brush at all, and then I'm taking it and dabbing it on the paper towel just to make sure it really is as less watery as possible. And then I'm going to use the tip of the brush to just place the paint down, and I'm kind of stippling these dots on the outside of the lemon to create some texture. And this will just kind of give us that look that real lemons have, that are, you know, not smooth, they're bumpy and lumpy, and this will add that effect. If you, again, lay down too much color and you're not happy with it, you can always use a piece of paper towel to pick the color right back up. And for this first step, I'm just focusing this darker color on the outside of the lemon where we placed that darker color with the yellow ochre. And then as we go in towards the center of the lemon, we will use the lighter color that we used before. So with that, I'm just grabbing my other brush and I'm dipping it right into the pure mixture of lemon yellow. And again, I have no water in the brush at all, it's just the paint. And I'm dotting that now in the center of the lemon. You can go all the way to the middle of the lemon with this color. Just make sure you don't overdo it in the very center as to take away from the highlight we have going to make the lemon look round. Again, if you feel like you drop down too much color, you can just grab that paper towel and pick it right back up. I'm not overthinking this too much, just dotting down color just to create the texture of the lemon. Now for our last pass on the leaves, I'm going to be grabbing a whole bunch of sap green and mixing that into the mixture we already have going. And then to that, I'm going to add burnt sienna this time instead of the yellow ochre. And this will create the same sort of warmth that we get from the yellow ochre, but it will turn the green a little bit darker and a little bit more brown. And we're just going to take this color first to do the back sides of the leaves one last time, just again to create that darkness, almost like the backs of the leaves are in shadow. And then we're going to go ahead and use that same mixture to start filling in the darker spots and adding another layer to those. With the veins this time, I'm not going to draw a line up the entire vein as we did before. I'm just kind of placing it in spots of the vein just to add a little bit of interest and not have it be one solid line, as you can see I'm doing here. And I'm just dropping the paint back in the dark spots that we've already placed it into. And I'm also doing one last layer on these stems that lead to the branch. This time I'm using the same medium-sized brush to blend it out, so I just rinse that out and then I'm using the tip of it to blend out the spots that we have placed. And again, with the vein, I'm just going across one side and not the other. And with the dark spots, again, you just want to be careful to push the color back the way that you placed it down rather than into the leaf itself, because we want to keep the lighter green spots that we already have light and the darker spots dark. Again, I'm just going to be repeating the same technique on each one of the leaves until they are all done. And there you have it, our watercolor lemon branch. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, let me know what you'd like to see from me next, and I'll see you in my next video.